Captain Jake Morrison stood at the main window of his ship and watched Earth burn. The blue planet that had been home to billions of people now looked like a dying ember in the darkness of space. Orange flames covered the continents where cities once stood proud and tall. The oceans reflected the fire like broken mirrors catching the last light of day. His ship, the EU's Defiant, moved slowly away from the destruction. The engines made a low humming sound that vibrated through the metal floors. Every few seconds, small explosions lit up the planet's surface as the alien bombs found new targets. Jake had seen many battles in his 20 years as a ship captain, but nothing had prepared him for watching his home world die. "Captain, we are at safe distance now," said Commander Lisa Hayes. She stood beside him, her uniform torn and dirty from the fighting they had barely escaped. Her left arm was in a medical wrap, but she refused to go to the doctor. Like everyone else on the ship, she knew there might not be time for healing. Jake turned from the window and looked at his bridge crew. These men and women had followed him through hell to get the survivors off Earth. Communications Officer Danny Walsh sat at his station, his young face pale as he listened to the final radio calls from the planet below. The voices grew weaker each minute as the alien forces destroyed the last human resistance. "How many did we save?" Jake asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. 800 people, sir," Lisa replied. "That includes crew, soldiers, scientists, and civilians. Dr. Amanda Foster is setting up medical stations throughout the ship for the wounded." 800 people. Jake felt the weight of that number pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy stone. Just yesterday, Earth had been home to 12 billion humans. Now these 800 souls floating in space were all that remained of humanity. The thought made his chest feel tight, but he could not show weakness. His crew needed him to be strong. Chief Engineer Ben Cooper's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Captain, I need to talk to you about our engines. We took heavy damage during the escape. I can keep us moving, but not for long without major repairs." Jake pressed the button to reply. "How long do we have, Ben?" "Maybe a week at best, sir. The alien weapons did something strange to our power systems. I have never seen damage like this before." "A week." Jake looked back at the burning planet and knew they would not have even that long. The alien fleet that had destroyed Earth was already moving to follow them. Long-range sensors showed more than 2,000 enemy ships spreading out across space to hunt down the last humans. The elevator doors opened and Dr. Amanda Foster stepped onto the bridge. Her medical clothes were covered in blood, and she looked exhausted. "Captain, I have treated everyone I can for now. We lost 37 people during the escape, but the rest will live if we can find somewhere safe." "Thank you, Dr. Jake," said. "How are our supplies?" "Food and water for maybe 3 months if we are careful. Medical supplies for 2 weeks at most." "But Captain, that is not our biggest problem." Amanda moved closer and lowered her voice. "The people are scared. They keep asking where we are going and what our plan is. Some of them watch their families die on Earth. They need hope, or they will give up." Jake understood what she meant. Hope was sometimes the only thing that kept people alive when everything else was lost. But what hope could he give them when he knew the truth? The alien fleet hunting them was the largest force ever seen in this part of the galaxy. Every human military base was destroyed. Every colony world had fallen silent. There was nowhere left to run. "Sir?" Danny Walsh called from his station. "I am picking up long-range signals. The alien fleet is 3 days behind us and closing fast." 3 days! Jake felt his hands form into fists. The aliens called themselves the Consortium, and they had spent decades planning humanity's destruction. 12 different alien species had joined together with one goal: to wipe humans from existence completely. They said humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable to be allowed to live. Captain Lisa said quietly, "We need to make a decision. Do we try to find somewhere to hide, or do we make a stand?" Jake looked around his bridge one more time. These people had trusted him to lead them to safety, but there was no safety left in the universe. The Consortium would never stop hunting them. Even if they found a place to hide, they would eventually be discovered. 800 people could not rebuild the human race, especially not while running for their lives. But maybe they could do something else. Maybe they could make sure that humanity's story did not end in silence and fear. "Attention all hands," Jake said into the ship's communication system. "This is your captain speaking. In 1 hour, I want all senior officers and department heads to meet in the main conference room. It is time we talked about our situation honestly." He turned back to the window where Earth continued to burn. Soon there would be nothing left of the planet but ash and memories. The consortium would claim victory and tell the galaxy that humans had been eliminated for the good of all civilized species. They would say that humanity had been a disease that needed to be cured. Morrison had other plans. If the UES Defiant was going to be humanity's last ship, then they would make sure the galaxy remembered what humans were really like. They would not go quietly into the darkness. They would burn bright like a star, and their light would shine across space long after they were gone. The alien fleet was coming, and there was no escape. But Captain Jake Morrison and the crew of the Defiant were about to teach the consortium something they had never learned. Humans fight hardest when they have nothing left to lose. 3 days had passed since the UES Defiant escaped from burning. Earth, the ship moved through empty space like a wounded animal, its damaged engines leaving a trail of energy that the alien hunters could follow. Captain Jake Morrison had not slept much during those 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flames consuming his home world. Lieutenant Danny Walsh sat at his communication station, listening to the static that filled the space around them. For 3 days, he had heard nothing but the empty hiss of cosmic radiation. No human voices calling for help. No rescue signals from hidden colonies. Just silence where once there had been the busy chatter of a galactic civilization. But something was different this morning. Danny adjusted his headphones and frowned at the readings on his screen. There was a signal buried in the static, but it was not coming from space. The signal was coming from inside their own ship. "Captain," Danny called across the bridge, "I am picking up something strange. There is a transmission coming from our quantum core, but I cannot understand what it is saying." Jake walked over to Danny's station and looked at the display. Waves of energy pulsed across the screen in patterns that seemed almost alive. "Are you sure it is not just interference from the damage we took?" "No, sir. This is definitely a signal, but it is not like anything in our communication systems. The frequency is completely unknown." Chief Engineer Ben Cooper's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Captain, can you come down to the engine room? I think we have a bigger problem than damaged engines." Jake left the bridge and took the elevator down to the lower levels of the ship. The elevator made strange clicking sounds as it moved, another sign of the damage they had suffered. When the doors opened, he stepped into the engine room where Ben Cooper was staring at a wall of blinking lights and displays. "What is the problem, Ben?" Jake asked. Ben pointed to a large machine in the center of the room. The quantum core hummed with energy, but instead of the usual blue glow, strange colors danced across its surface. Purple, green, and silver lights swirled like oil on water. "The core is acting like it has a mind of its own," Ben said. "It is generating power patterns I have never seen before. According to these readings, it should have exploded by now, but instead it seems to be getting stronger." Dr. Nicole Grant arrived in the engine room carrying a tablet computer and looking excited. She was the ship's expert on alien technology, and she had spent the last 3 days studying the strange weapons that had hit their ship during the escape from Earth. "Captain, I think I know what is happening," Nicole said during the battle. "We were hit by something the aliens call a neural disruptor. It was designed to scramble human brain patterns and kill us instantly. But we are still alive," Jake pointed out. "Exactly. The weapon did not work the way it was supposed to. Instead of killing us, it did something else. It created a connection between our minds and the ship's quantum systems." Nicole touched her tablet and showed them a diagram of brainwave patterns. "Look at this. I have been monitoring the crew's neural activity, and it matches the energy patterns coming from the quantum core. Somehow, our thoughts are being converted into quantum signals." Ben stared at the swirling lights in the core. "You mean the ship is reading our minds?" "Not just reading them," Nicole said. "It is broadcasting them. The quantum core is transmitting our thoughts and memories across space using frequencies that match alien communication systems." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying the aliens can hear our thoughts?" That is where it gets interesting, Nicole replied. I have been analyzing the communication frequencies we captured from consortium ships. Our signals are being sent on the same channels they use for their most secret transmissions. But there is a problem for them. Human thought patterns are too chaotic and complex for their minds to understand. To them, our memories just sound like noise. Danny Walsh's voice came through the communication system. Captain, you need to get back up here. I am detecting the alien fleet, and they are closer than we thought. Jake took the elevator back to the bridge and found his crew gathered around the main display. The screen showed a three-dimensional map of the space around them, with red dots representing enemy ships. There were so many red dots that they looked like a swarm of angry insects. How many ships? Jake asked. 2,037 vessels, Lisa Hayes reported. They are spread out in a hunting formation, but they are all moving toward our position. We have maybe 6 hours before they reach us. Jake looked at the overwhelming force coming to destroy them and felt something change inside his mind. Fear was still there, but it was joined by something else. A wild idea that might be completely insane, but could also be their only chance to win a victory that mattered. Danny, can you boost the signal that is coming from our quantum core? I think so, sir. But why would we want to make it stronger? Jake turned to face his crew. Because we are going to tell our story to the entire galaxy. If the consortium wants to silence humanity forever, we are going to make sure everyone hears what really happened here. Dr. Grant stepped forward. Captain, the process could be dangerous. If we amplify the neural connection, it might burn out our brains. We are going to die anyway when that fleet reaches us, Jake replied. But maybe we can make our deaths mean something. Maybe we can plant seeds of doubt in alien minds across the galaxy. He activated the ship's communication system so everyone could hear him. Attention all hands. This is your captain. I am about to ask something from you that no commander should ever ask. I want you to open your minds and share your memories with the universe. Show them what it means to be human. Show them our courage, our love, our refusal to give up even when everything seems hopeless. The response came quickly. Voices from throughout the ship volunteered without hesitation. Soldiers who had fought on a dozen worlds. Scientists who had spent their lives pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Ordinary people who had shown extraordinary bravery when their world was dying. Danny, begin amplifying the signal. Jake ordered. And connect me to every communication system on this ship. It is time the galaxy learned the truth about humanity. As the alien fleet closed in for the kill, the crew of the UES Defiant began broadcasting their souls across the stars. They did not know if anyone would understand their message, but they were determined that humanity's voice would be heard one last time. The first volunteer was Sergeant Kyle Barnes, a man who had fought aliens on 6 different worlds before Earth fell. He sat in the modified communication chair that Dr. Nicole Grant had built in the ship's main laboratory. Wires connected to his temples carried his thoughts directly into the quantum core, where they were transformed into signals that raced across the galaxy. Kyle closed his eyes and remembered the Battle of Europa Station. He had been 22 years old, scared, and far from home when the first alien ships appeared in Earth's solar system. The memory flowed through the quantum transmitter, the sound of laser fire echoing through metal corridors, the smell of burning plastic and fear. The faces of friends who died protecting civilians they would never meet. The signal is strong and clear, Danny Walsh reported from his station. Kyle's memories are being broadcast across 12 star systems that we know of, maybe more. Captain Jake Morrison watched the readings on the main screen. Each pulse of light represented a human memory traveling at faster than light speed to alien communication networks throughout the galaxy. The consortium had built their communication system to connect their empire, but now it was carrying the stories of the people they had tried to destroy. Dr. Amanda Foster stood beside Kyle's chair, monitoring his vital signs. His brain activity is off the charts, but he seems stable. The neural connection is not hurting him, at least not yet. Kyle opened his eyes and smiled weakly. Captain, you need to feel this. When the memories go out, it is like they become part of something bigger. I can sense other minds touching them, trying to understand what they mean. Pilot Amy Chen volunteered. Next, she was one of the best fighter pilots in what remained of the human military, and her memories contained years of aerial combat and the poetry she wrote between battles. As she connected to the system, her consciousness flowed outward with images of Earth's blue skies and the freedom of flight among the stars. Amy's memories carried something that worried the consortium more than human weapons: human creativity. Her poems spoke of finding beauty in the darkness of war, of creating art from pain and loss. These were concepts that the rigid alien society could not understand or accept. Engineer Tony Rodriguez shared his knowledge of human technology and innovation. His memories showed how humans took broken things and made them work better than before. He remembered building his first engine when he was 12 years old, using parts from a broken transport vehicle and pure determination. His story carried the human gift for taking chaos and creating order, for solving problems that seemed impossible. One by one, the crew members of the Defiant added their voices to the growing transmission. Each person brought unique experiences that painted a complete picture of what humanity had been before the war. There were memories of first love and last goodbyes, of scientific discoveries and artistic triumphs, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things when the universe demanded courage. Dr. Grant monitored the alien communication networks and reported what she found. The signal is reaching every consortium ship and command center in this part of the galaxy. Their systems are receiving our transmissions, but they cannot decode them properly. To their minds, human consciousness is too chaotic and unpredictable. What about other species? Jake asked. Are there aliens who might understand our message? Yes, there are species outside consortium control that use compatible communication frequencies. If our signal reaches them, they might be able to interpret at least parts of our memories. The process was not without cost. After 30 minutes connected to the system, Kyle Barnes collapsed with exhaustion. His mind had been pushed to its limits by the effort of transmitting his entire life story across interstellar space. Dr. Forster carried him to the medical bay, where he lay unconscious but alive. Others suffered similar effects. Amy Chen began speaking in languages she had never learned, as if her mind was trying to communicate with alien receivers she could sense but not see. Tony Rodriguez reported that he could feel alien minds touching his memories, attempting to understand human engineering principles that seemed impossible by their standards. But the most dramatic change came from Danny Walsh as the communication officer managing the transmissions. He maintained a constant connection to the quantum network. After 2 hours, he began receiving signals back from across the galaxy. "Captain," Danny said, his voice strange and distant, "I can hear them. There are aliens out there who are receiving our memories and trying to send responses. They do not understand our language, but I can feel their emotions. Some are curious, some are afraid, and some are angry." Jake moved to Danny's station. "What are they angry about?" "I think they are angry at the consortium for trying to destroy us. Our memories are showing them what the war was really like. They are seeing human cities burning and families being separated. Some of these aliens have been told that humans were dangerous monsters who had to be eliminated for the good of the galaxy." Dr. Grant looked up from her analysis computers. "Cap, I am detecting something unusual. The consortium fleet has stopped moving toward us. They are maintaining their distance but not attacking." Jake felt a spark of hope. "Why would they stop?" "I think they are scared," Nicole replied. "Our transmissions are flooding their communication networks with human consciousness. They do not understand what we are doing, and that terrifies them. The consortium values order and predictability above everything else. To them, the human mind represents chaos that could contaminate their entire civilization." The realization hit Jake like a physical blow. The aliens were not just trying to destroy humanity because they saw humans as a military threat. They were afraid of human consciousness itself, of the way humans could create hope from despair and find strength in suffering. The consortium had built a society based on rigid control, and they feared that exposure to human thoughts could cause their own people to question that control. "How many more crew members can we safely connect to the system?" Jake asked Dr. Foster. "Maybe 50 more before we start risking permanent brain damage." "But, Captain, I have to warn you that the effects are getting stronger. The people who have already transmitted are reporting strange dreams and visions. Some say they can still feel their memories traveling through space, touching alien minds across the galaxy. Jake made his decision. Connect me to the ship's communication system. His voice echoed throughout the Defiant as he spoke to the remaining crew. Everyone, listen carefully. What we are doing here is bigger than any battle we have ever fought. We are not just telling our story to aliens who might listen. We are planting seeds of doubt in the minds of consortium citizens who have been told lies about what humans really are. He paused and looked out at the stars visible through the bridge windows. I do not know if we will survive the next few hours, but I know that our memories will live forever in the quantum networks that connect the galaxy. Every time a consortium citizen questions their government's actions, every time an alien wonders what it would be like to choose their own destiny, they will be feeling the echo of human consciousness. The volunteers lined up outside the laboratory, ready to add their voices to humanity's final song. They knew the risks, but they also knew that this might be their only chance to ensure that the human spirit would survive even if their bodies did not. The alien fleet began moving again after 6 hours of silence. Captain Jake Morrison watched the display screen as 2,000 consortium ships formed a perfect sphere around the UES Defiant. Each vessel was positioned with mathematical precision, creating a cage of metal and weapons that no human ship could break through. They are not taking any chances, Commander Lisa Hayes observed. Whatever we have been doing with our transmissions, it has them scared enough to bring their entire fleet against one damaged ship. Jake activated the communication system that would let him speak to the alien commander. He had tried to make contact several times during the past hours, but the consortium had refused to respond. Now, with their prey trapped and helpless, they finally answered. The main screen flickered and showed the face of an alien that looked like a combination of insect and machine. Its voice was translated by the ship's computers into flat, emotionless words that somehow managed to convey deep anger. I am hierarchical, prime of the consortium fleet. You will cease your transmissions immediately and prepare to be destroyed. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Defiant. We represent the last free humans in the galaxy. Before you kill us, do not we deserve to know why you fear us so much? The alien's face twitched with what might have been surprise. Fear! The consortium does not experience fear. We eliminate threats to galactic order and stability. Then why did you stop your attack? Why surround us with your entire fleet instead of simply destroying us from a distance? There was a long pause before Hierarchical Prime answered. Your transmissions are disrupting consortium communication networks across 12 sectors. You are broadcasting chaos and disorder that could contaminate other species under our protection. Jake smiled grimly. You mean other species that you control? Tell me, Hierarchical Prime, what is it about human consciousness that terrifies your people so much? Humans create art from suffering. You find hope in despair. You grow stronger through adversity. These are dangerous concepts that must not be allowed to spread to species that have achieved perfect social harmony under consortium guidance. The truth was finally out in the open. The consortium had not destroyed humanity because humans were violent or aggressive. They had committed genocide because human consciousness represented everything their controlled society could not tolerate. Creativity, individuality, and the refusal to accept oppression. Dr. Nicole Grant looked up from her monitoring station. Captain, the quantum transmissions are reaching critical amplitude. We are about to achieve something unprecedented. What do you mean? The signal is no longer limited to this galaxy? Our consciousness is breaking through into parallel dimensions, reaching versions of reality where humans might still exist. If we can maintain the transmission for another hour, human memories will become a permanent part of the universe itself. Chief Engineer Ben Cooper's voice came through the ship's speakers. Captain, I have been working on something that might help us by that time. I can rig our reactor to create a quantum cascade that will boost our signal beyond anything the consortium can stop. The process will destroy the ship, but our story will reach every corner of existence. Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He was being asked to make a decision that would end the lives of everyone on his ship. but might also ensure that human consciousness would never truly die. How long do you need, Ben? 30 minutes to set up the cascade, then another 30 minutes for the signal to reach maximum strength before the ship explodes. Attention all hands, Jake announced throughout the ship. In 1 hour, we are going to light up the universe with the brightest signal it has ever seen. Everyone who wants to add their memories to the transmission should report to Dr. Grant's laboratory immediately. The response was immediate. Every person on the ship who was still able to walk lined up to share their consciousness with the galaxy. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and civilians all waited their turn to become part of humanity's final message. Pilot Amy Chen led the ship's small fighter wing out of the landing bay for one last battle. She knew the 12 fighters could not defeat the consortium fleet, but they could provide a distraction while the quantum cascade was prepared. Her voice came through the communication system as she engaged the enemy. This is Blue Leader to all fighters. Remember what we are fighting for. We are not trying to win this battle. We are trying to give the galaxy a show it will never forget. The fighters moved through space like dancers performing their final ballet. Each pilot flew with the kind of creative unpredictability that had always confused alien tactical computers. They used maneuvers that made no logical sense but expressed decades of human culture and rebellion. Amy's fighters screamed past the consortium battleship, her weapons carving patterns of light across its hull. That looked more like artwork than military damage. The alien gunners could not predict her movements because she was not following any tactical manual. She was flying with pure human instinct and emotion. The other fighters followed her example. They painted the darkness of space with laser fire that told stories of courage and defiance. When their weapons ran out, they used their ships themselves as weapons, ramming into alien vessels in kamikaze attacks that lit up the enemy formation like deadly fireworks. One by one, the fighters were destroyed, but not before they had shown the watching consortium fleet what human courage looked like when it had nothing left to lose. Inside the Defiant, Dr. Grant was connecting the last volunteers to the quantum transmission system. Each person who joined the signal added their unique voice to the growing symphony of human consciousness that was racing across space and time. Captain, she reported, we now have the complete story of humanity stored in the quantum network. Every major achievement, every act of love and sacrifice, every moment of triumph and tragedy, it is all there, preserved forever. Ben Cooper finished his work in the engine room. Quantum Cascade is ready, Captain. When you give the order, our reactor will become a temporary star that will boost our signal across multiple dimensions. Jake looked around his bridge one last time. His crew was exhausted but determined. They had already won the only victory. That mattered, ensuring that humanity's story would survive even if their bodies did not. Hierarchical Prime, Jake said into the communication system. You wanted to eliminate human consciousness from the galaxy. Let me show you what you are. Really trying to destroy. He gave the signal to Ben Cooper, and the used Defiant began to transform into something greater than a warship. The quantum cascade turned the ship into a beacon of pure human consciousness that blazed across the universe, like a dying star determined to light up the darkness one last time. The used Defiant died as she had lived, with defiance burning in her heart. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge as the quantum cascade reached critical levels, turning his ship into a star of pure human consciousness. The metal walls around him glowed with energy that pulsed in rhythm with the heartbeats of his crew. Signal strength is beyond all measurements, Danny Walsh reported, his voice calm despite the approaching end. Our story is reaching every corner of the galaxy and beyond. The quantum transmissions are punching through dimensional barriers and spreading across parallel universes. The consortium fleet maintained their perfect sphere formation around the dying human ship, but Jake could see their vessels shaking from the quantum energies washing over them. The alien crews were experiencing something their ordered minds had never encountered. The raw, chaotic force of human emotions broadcast at the speed of thought. Dr. Nicole Grant looked up from her instruments with wonder in her eyes. Captain, the signal is not just carrying our memories anymore. It is carrying something deeper. The fundamental patterns that make us human are becoming part of the fabric of space and time itself. Commander Lisa Hayes moved to stand beside Jake as the bridge filled with light that seemed to come from within their own souls. "Sir, it has been an honor serving with you." "The honor was mine, Lisa. All of you have shown the galaxy what it means to be human." Chief Engineer Ben Cooper's voice came through the speakers one last time. "Quantum cascade reaching maximum amplitude in 10 seconds. Whatever happens next, we won this fight." Jake activated the ship's communication system and spoke his final words as captain of humanity's last vessel. "This is the UES Defiant. We are humanity's last ship. We are surrounded, outnumbered, and facing certain death. But we will not go quietly into the dark. We will make them remember us. We will teach the galaxy what it means to be human." The ship exploded in a burst of quantum energy that turned the darkness of space into blazing daylight for one brief, eternal moment. The consortium fleet was caught in the expanding wave of human consciousness, their communication systems overwhelmed by memories of courage, love, sacrifice, and the unbreakable human spirit. But Jake Morrison and his crew had achieved something beyond their wildest dreams. The quantum explosion did not just destroy their ship, it created a permanent feature in the structure of reality itself, a beacon of human consciousness that would continue broadcasting their story until the end of time. The consortium believed they had won. Hierarchical Prime sent reports throughout their empire claiming that the human threat had been eliminated completely. Earth was a dead world. The human fleet was destroyed, and the last survivors had been wiped out. The galaxy was safe from human contamination. But they did not understand what they had actually done. On a world at the edge of consortium space, a young alien worker named Keth was performing his assigned duties in a factory that produced communication equipment. He had been told since birth that his purpose was to serve the greater good by following orders without question. Individual thoughts and desires were considered dangerous to social harmony. That night, Keth began having strange dreams filled with memories that were not his own. He saw images of humans fighting impossible odds, creating beauty from pain, and refusing to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. The dreams showed him concepts his people had no words for: hope, rebellion, and the idea that individuals had value beyond their usefulness to society. When Keth woke up, he looked around his small living space and wondered for the first time if there might be more to existence than following order. The thought scared him, but it also filled him with a strange new emotion that humans would have called hope. Similar awakenings were happening across the galaxy. The quantum transmissions from the Defiant had planted seeds of human consciousness in alien minds that were ready to receive them. Species that had been conquered by the consortium centuries ago began to remember what freedom felt like. On the planet Zarian, an alien poet named Velith started writing verses that celebrated struggle instead of order. Her words spoke of finding meaning in suffering and creating art from the chaos of existence. The consortium authorities tried to stop her, but her poems had already spread through underground networks to other worlds. A slave worker on an asteroid mining station suddenly understood that his life had value beyond the ore he extracted. He organized the first rebellion his species had attempted in 300 years. When consortium forces crushed the uprising, the workers died singing songs they had learned from human memories, songs about dying free rather than living in chains. The consortium tried to contain the spreading contamination, but it was too late. Human consciousness had become part of the quantum structure of space itself. Every time an alien used their communication networks, they risked exposure to human memories and the dangerous ideas they contained. Years passed, and the effects grew stronger. Entire species began questioning the consortium's rule. Artists created works that celebrated individuality and rebellion. Scientists pursued knowledge for its own sake, rather than for approved purposes. Ordinary citizens started believing they had the right to choose their own destinies. The rigid order that had defined consortium civilization for millennia began to crack under the pressure of ideas that came from a species that no longer existed in physical form. A decade after the destruction of the Defiant, a young alien named Zara stood on the command deck of a stolen consortium warship. She belonged to a species that had been enslaved for so long that they had forgotten their original name, but in her mind, she carried the memories of Captain Jake Morrison and his crew. Zara activated the ship's communication system and spoke words in a language she had never learned, words that echoed across space with the power of humanity's final message. This is the UES Defiant. We are humanity's last ship. We are surrounded, outnumbered, and facing certain death. But we will not go quietly into the dark. We will make them remember us. We will teach the galaxy what it means to be human. The transmission ended, but the echo never died. Throughout the galaxy, on 1,000 different worlds, aliens who had never seen a human felt the stirring of something ancient and powerful in their hearts. They felt the urge to stand up, to fight back, to create something beautiful from their suffering. The consortium had succeeded in destroying humanity, but they had failed to silence the human spirit. That spirit lived on in every act of defiance, every refusal to surrender, every spark of hope kindled in the darkness between the stars. And somewhere in the quantum networks that connected the universe, the crew of the US Defiant continued their eternal watch, ensuring that as long as consciousness existed, the galaxy would remember what it meant to be human.